James, James, James. Lord God, our Father. The frightened mother, her face swollen with tears, ran into the kitchen, holding a white envelope with trembling hands. On the other side of the envelope, the date, time of mailing, and addressee were starkly printed. I slowly get up from the table, keeping my eyes on the woman's face. That's it. It's gone, James. It's gone. That's it. I quickly snatch the envelope from my mother and pull out the letter, slightly damp with tears. The top line is instantly burned into my mind, leaving a throbbing, painful inscription. Death notice. A powerful discharge runs through my body. A burning lump comes to my throat, blood pounding in my temples. God, no. How come? Why with us? Why him? God, why? Why? The lightning-fast realization of reality overrides the memories of the doctor's promises to do their best, to do everything in their power, and the heartache completely envelops me in its embrace. Unable to resist my emotions, I silently embrace my sobbing mother and also blur into hysterical crying, pressing my lips to someone else's head. The wounds were incompatible with life, though the doctors tried to save the victim's life. The evening of that day passed very dimly. My mother cried in the bedroom the whole time, occasionally taking calls from our friends and listening to their condolences, and I spent most of the time in the living room holding a family photo. He was 46 years old. A sturdy man with permanent stubble, broad shoulders, translucent gray hair, and a soft, kind smile, leaving our world behind in the blink of an eye. Leaving behind family, friends, and a pile of financial debt. The circumstances of being admitted to the hospital were never disclosed to us. The doctors briefly mouthed the memorized words. The condition of the victim is critical. We're doing everything we can. But the moments of opening the door to the room gave me a second glimpse of what was going on inside. What I saw made it clear, only that something terrible had happened to him. Truly nightmarish. Like a naive child, I believed in a miracle and hoped to the point of trembling for a cure, but the reality was harsh. A person cannot survive such trauma. I saw my father's chest torn to shreds, his arms stripped to muscle, his clawed face, his eyes crushed, his legs broken. It will never wash out of my memory. And the scariest thing here is that he was alive at that moment. I saw the rise of his rib cage, the wiggling of the remains of his limbs. I saw his hellish pain, and I knew how much he wanted to die. Such agony cannot be wished even by the worst enemy, because in fact, a man does not live, but simply exists on this planet without the slightest chance for salvation. This is the kind of death that many people are afraid of, including my beloved dad. Mom, I'm going to the night shift. I patted my jacket pockets, I said. Close the door. My mother, who had no place on her face from eternal tears, came out to me in the corridor, leaned her shoulder against the wall, and once again blotted her swollen eyes with a handkerchief. Honey, please take care of yourself. The woman's voice sounded exhausted. And call me when you get to work. I sighed loudly, stood for a couple of seconds in thought, came up to her and hugged her tightly, squeezing her eyes to white sparks. Okay, promise me you'll go to bed after the call. Uh-huh. Mom sniffles and walks slowly back to her bedroom, and I quietly put a cigarette to my lips and walk out of the apartment. On the way to the bus stop, my conscience began to eat away at me. A tearing sense of guilt traveled from the farthest recesses of my soul to the uppermost layers, covering me with a stinking, just stench. I hide my neck behind the collar of my jacket and walk 7 miles to the bus stop, immediately sitting down on the bench and freezing. My stomach rumbles and shrinks unhappily, like a floor cloth during the ringing. I felt a terrible, unmanly hunger, and my palms got damp in a second, leaving traces on my jeans. I threw my gaze from side to side and stomped my foot impatiently, waiting for the bus I needed. My conscience did not give me a second's peace and added black colors to the gloomy picture, finally destroying the light inside me. I'm distracted by the sudden glare of headlights and the annoying squeak of an old brake. The door hisses open. I darted onto the bus, sat down in the farthest seat, rested my head against the glass, and covered my eyes. The picture of my father, torn and tortured, lying on the ground, came into view. His throat was a hoarse croak instead of a scream, his legs dragging helplessly on the ground, bloody tears streaming from his bloodshot eyes. Above him hovered a huge, shaggy figure with razor-sharp claws and predatory, angry yellow eyes. It slowly approaches him, growling loudly. Powerful muscles roll over its thick, hairy hide, its tail dragging yellow forest leaves behind it. A swipe of a paw whistles through the air. I shudder. The prickly goosebumps once again swarmed across my body. Bits of memories came together smoothly, gradually blowing the fog out of my head. At the bus stop, I shouted to the driver and found myself in front of the doors. Brakes squeak, doors hiss, and I run out of the bus, throwing my change on the driver's mat. Approaching the beaten path, I take out my phone, flip through the list of contacts, and, selecting the right one, dial. James? Are you there? Mother's excited voice sounded extremely worried. Yes, Mom. Yes, everything is all right. I'm already near the entrance. Don't worry. I wiped my forehead with my hand and sighed. I'll call you when I'm free. You sound a little weird. Is everything okay? I'm fine. It's just, I hover in indecisive anticipation. On the other end of the wire, there are quiet sniffles and the creak of the bed. Conflicting feelings chase away the ashes of doubt and bring back the speech I lost for a second. It's okay. Without waiting for an answer, I drop the call, throw it in my jacket pocket, and unzip it, heading deep into the dense forest. The clouds drifted lazurely across the pitch-black sky. Only the glint of stars and the moon, closed behind its pirate brethren, kept the darkness from completely engulfing the city. It was only thanks to them that I was able to orient myself in space. While taking off my clothes, I hung them at predetermined points and carefully covered them with leaves so that a stranger who happened to wander in wouldn't suspect anything. Finding myself naked, I stand in the long assigned spot. The icy wet soil gently dragged my toes into itself, creating the illusion of quicksand. Images of my father being torn apart swim before my eyes. Unable to fight them any longer, I lowered my eyelids, trying to take in what had happened. James, what are you doing? James! The heavy clouds pull aside like a blanket, making way for the moonlight. A yellow glare flickers through the air, lands on me and triggers the irreversible. Son, what's wrong with you? An excruciating pain pierces me. Bright tears glisten in my eyes. A wolfish growl rips from my throat. My body begins to crunch loudly, my joints deforming and breaking in half, rearranging themselves into a new, powerful, and savage form. Nightmarish memories stacked up in a single chain I had forgotten, revealing a secret that disturbed me so much. The remorse at the bus stop became so clear that it almost blinded my agonized mind. Before a prolonged wolf howl covered the town, a heartbreaking, shifting cry interrupted it. I'm sorry, Daddy.